Bruce Lee walked into a training hall where people were already busy with each other. The door creaked a little as he pushed it open, but the sound got swallowed up by the chatter and thuds inside. It was one of those places you'd find in a city gym or a community center, nothing fancy, just a big open space with worn-out mats covering most of the floor. The walls were plain, maybe a few posters tacked up here and there, faded from years of use. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow that made everything look a bit washed out. No one looked up. Everyone was caught up in their own world. A couple of guys near the entrance were stretching against the wall, talking about their last session, their voices low and casual. One of them adjusted his gloves, flexing his fingers, while the other nodded along, wiping sweat from his brow with the hem of his shirt. Further in, two fighters were laughing near the mats. They were the kind of laughs that come from shared jokes, maybe about a missed punch or a funny slip earlier. One was taller, with a beard, slapping his knee as he recounted something, and the other, shorter with a buzz cut, chuckled while bouncing on his toes, ready for the next round. They didn't even glance at the door. Their focus was on each other, on the rhythm of their warm-up. A small group had gathered around someone showing off. This guy was in the middle of the room, the unofficial center of attention. He was broad-shouldered, wearing a tank top that showed off his muscles, and he was demonstrating a move, maybe a hook or a block with exaggerated slowness at first, then snapping it quick. The people around him were a mix. A few younger students, wide-eyed and eager, nodding as he explained. One woman with her hair tied back leaned in closer, asking a question, and he answered with a grin, repeating the motion for her. Another man, older with a bit of grey in his hair, crossed his arms and watched approvingly, throwing in a comment like, "Yeah, that's the way." They formed a loose circle, backs turned to the rest of the room, completely absorbed. The air around them felt charged, like they were the main event, and the rest of the hall orbited around that spot. Bruce Lee stood there for a moment, just inside the doorway. He was dressed simply a plain t-shirt and pants, nothing that screamed for notice. His build was lean, not bulky like some of the others, and he carried a small bag over one shoulder. He paused, taking in the scene without a word. The smells hit him, the sharp tang of sweat mixed with the rubbery scent of the mats, maybe a hint of cleaning spray from earlier in the day. Sounds layered on feet shuffling, fists hitting pads with muffled thumps, someone grunting as they lifted weights in the corner. It was crowded but not chaotic. Everyone had their spot, their routine. He scanned the room briefly, but no one met his eyes. He was invisible in that moment, like walking into a party where you don't know anyone and the conversations don't pause for you. Then, quietly, he moved to the side of the room and began to train. He set his bag down gently against the wall, in a spot where the mats thinned out and the floor was bare concrete. No one shifted to make space. They didn't need to, because no one noticed. He started simple, rolling his neck to loosen up, then dropping into a basic stance. His movements were deliberate but unhurried, like he was there for himself, not for show. The hall kept going around him, the laughs continued. The group around the show-off grew a bit as another person wandered over, drawn by the energy. Comments floated by, "Watch this," or "Try it like that." Bruce Lee didn't react. He just settled into his own flow, the room's busyness fading into background noise for him. It was that familiar feeling of being overlooked in a place full of people, like showing up to a meeting where everyone's already deep in discussion, or joining a class midway through and slipping into a back seat. The energy was elsewhere, pulled toward the louder voices, the bigger presences. Bruce Lee didn't push against it. He just found his corner and got to work, his breath steady, his focus inward. The dismissal wasn't rude, it was just natural, the way crowds sort themselves without thinking. But in that quiet start, something real was unfolding, even if no one saw it yet. The place was loud in the way crowded rooms get when everyone's locked into their own thing, shoes squeaking on the floor with every quick step, heavy breathing from people pushing through reps, grunts, when a punch or kick landed solid against a pad or bag. Occasional sharp laughs cut through, or a coach barking a quick correction. Keep your chin down, elbows in, again. It wasn't chaotic, just alive. The mats in the center were the busiest part, dark blue rubber worn thin, in spots from years of footwork and falls. People moved in pairs mostly, some drilling combinations, others sparring light, circling each other with focused stares. A few worked solo against heavy bags that swung and creaked on their chains. In the far corner, someone was doing shadow boxing in front of a cracked mirror, watching their own form, muttering to themselves between breaths. The air felt thick, that unmistakable gym smell of sweat, rubber, and a faint metallic tang from old equipment. High windows let in slanted afternoon light, catching floating dust particles and making long shadows stretch across the floor. A couple of bare bulbs hung from the ceiling, buzzing faintly, giving the whole room a yellowish cast. Fans spun slowly overhead, but didn't do much except move the warm air around. Water bottles sat lined up against the wall, some sweating condensation, towels draped over shoulders or tossed on benches. Nobody glanced his way. Bruce Lee had slipped to the side wall and become just another shape in the periphery. He was smaller than a lot of the guys there, lean, compact, not carrying the bulk that draws eyes in a room like this. Plain black t-shirt, plain pants, no flashy wraps or branded gear. No one trailing behind him, no one calling his name. He could have been any new guy who wandered in off the street. The room didn't adjust for him. It kept spinning on its own axis. The ones getting watched were the bigger presences, the ones who naturally pulled focus without trying too hard or sometimes trying very hard. A couple of heavy hitters were working pads near the center, each strike landing with a loud smack that echoed. Every time one of them threw a clean hook or a powerful low kick, heads turned for a second, a few nods of approval. "Good power," someone called out. Another guy, built like a linebacker, was showing a clinch escape to 3 or 4 students clustered around him. He moved slow at first so they could see the mechanics, then exploded into the full-speed version. The group leaned in, phones occasionally coming out to record a clip. "That's it, feel the leverage," he said, and one of the students tried it, got it halfway right, and earned a quick, "Close, try again." Across the mats, the real show-off held court. Tall, good shoulders, confident grin. He was demonstrating a flashy combo: jab, cross, hook, spinning back kick. He did it once slow for the form, explaining each piece like a teacher, then snapped it fast twice, finishing with the kick high and loud against the air. The small crowd around him tightened 5, maybe 6 people now. A younger guy with fresh wraps copied the sequence, stumbling a bit on the spin, and the show-off laughed good-naturedly, stepped in to adjust his stance. "Weight on the back foot more, there you go." Someone else clapped once when the kick snapped clean. "Nice one," another voice said. The energy in the room bent toward that spot like gravity. Conversations nearby quieted when he spoke. Eyes drifted over, even from other parts of the hall. The group tightened again when he ran the combo a 3rd time, faster, adding a feint at the beginning. Laughter followed, easy and approving. The rest of the room orbited that circle without realizing it. People pausing mid-drill to glance, then returning to their own work. But the pull was there. Bruce Lee stayed where he was, off to the side, out of the main flow. No one had offered him a pad partner yet. No one had asked what he was working on. The spotlight stayed firmly in the center, bright and loud, while the edges of the room remained dim and unnoticed. It was ordinary, the way attention works in places like this, drawn to volume, to size, to performance. The show-off kept going, feeding off the nods and comments, and the room fed it right back. Bruce Lee found a quiet corner near the wall, away from the thickest part of the crowd. It wasn't a prime spot, no one had claimed it, but no one wanted it either. The mats ended a few feet away, leaving a strip of hard floor that felt cooler underfoot. He set his small bag down carefully, unzipped it just enough to pull out a thin towel, then folded it once and placed it on top. No rush, no ceremony. He rolled his shoulders a couple times, cracked his neck gently side to side, and dropped into a neutral stance, feet shoulder width, knees soft, hands loose at his sides. He started with footwork, the kind most people do when they're alone and just warming up. Simple steps forward and back, shifting weight smoothly from one leg to the other. Then lateral slides, quick but controlled, never crossing his feet. Nothing dramatic, no spins, no jumps, no exaggerated lunges. Just clean lines, precise placement. Every move ended exactly where it was meant to, no extra bounce, no wasted energy. After a minute or so, he added hand motion, light punches to the air, straight leads first, then hooks, all at medium speed. His elbows stayed close, wrists straight, shoulders relaxed. The rhythm was even, almost metronomic. Inhale on the chamber, exhale on the extension. You could almost count it if you tried. He didn't look around to see if anyone was watching. He didn't glance toward the center where the laughter still rolled, or check if the show-off was still holding court. When the noise in the room rose, a sudden burst of clapping, or a loud "yes" from someone nailing a drill, he didn't speed up to match it. When it dipped, he didn't slow down. He just kept going, same as if the hall were empty, and the only sound was his own breathing. His face stayed calm, eyes forward or slightly down, focused on the invisible target in front of him. Sweat started to bead at his temples, but he didn't wipe it yet. He let it run. Then one guy, a stocky one with thick arms and a towel draped over his neck, happened to turn while catching his breath. He'd just finished a heavy round on the pads and stepped back to gulp air, hands on his hips. His eyes drifted across the room the way people do when they're recovering, not really looking for anything. They landed on the corner. He blinked once, then kept them there, watched for a second longer than usual. The movements were clean, almost too clean. No telegraphing, no hitch in the transition from punch to step. The footwork didn't just move, it glided, rooted, but light. The stocky guy tilted his head slightly, the way you do when something registers, but you're not sure what yet. He didn't say anything. He just stopped moving himself, towel still hanging, chest rising and falling slower now. His training partner noticed the pause, followed his gaze over to the side wall. The partner's eyebrows lifted a fraction. He lowered his pads, watching too. A minute or two later, another pair paused mid-drill. They'd been working a simple jab-cross combination, trading turns, but the one throwing stopped halfway through his rep. He muttered something low to his partner. "Hey, look at that." The partner turned, still in stance, gloves up. Heads turned slowly after that, not all at once, just drifting like leaves in a current. One woman who'd been stretching nearby straightened up, arms dropping to her sides. A guy wiping down his face with his shirt sleeve froze mid-motion, fabric still pressed to his forehead. It wasn't a stampede of attention. No one shouted or pointed, just small, quiet shifts. A footstep that didn't continue, a conversation that trailed off mid-sentence, eyes that lingered instead of flicking away. The center of the room still had its pull. The show-off was running through another sequence, voice carrying, but the orbit was starting to wobble. A couple more people near the edge noticed the change in the air, the subtle drop in volume from their own group, and looked over to see what everyone else was seeing. Bruce Lee didn't acknowledge any of it. He transitioned from punches to elbow strikes now, short, sharp, tight arcs that snapped back faster than they went out. His breathing stayed even, almost silent. He wasn't performing for the glances that were starting to gather. He wasn't even facing the room fully most of the time. His body angled slightly toward the wall, like privacy still mattered even in a public space. That made the watching feel almost accidental, like stumbling on something you weren't supposed to interrupt. And because he didn't react, didn't pause, didn't look back, the pull grew stronger, one quiet second at a time. The laughter near the mats quieted a notch. It didn't stop completely, just softened, like someone turned down the volume on a speaker. The show-off was still moving through his routine, throwing the same combo he'd been running, jab, cross, hook, spinning kick. He finished with the high snap, foot cutting the air clean, and looked around for the usual nods. A couple people still gave him a quick, good one, but their eyes were already sliding sideways. Fewer stayed locked on him. The tight circle around him loosened a little. Someone stepped back to grab water. Another shifted weight like they were thinking of moving elsewhere. The energy that had been pooling there started to leak, drifting toward the edges. People began shifting their weight, stealing glances toward the side wall. It was subtle at first. A head tilt here, a pause in footwork there. One guy who'd been holding pads for his partner lowered them slowly, arms hanging loose. He watched without speaking. His partner followed suit, gloves still up but attention gone. A woman nearby, mid-stretch, let her arms drop and turned fully. She didn't move closer, just stood and observed. More followed. A couple stepped off the mats entirely, arms folded across their chests, just watching. No rush, no drama. They positioned themselves so they could see without blocking anyone else's view. The room's noise dropped, not silent, but thinner. Fewer calls bounced around. The sharp, again, from a coach faded into the background. Laughter that had been rolling in waves now came in short bursts, then nothing. The focus had slid sideways, quiet but unmistakable. Half the hall was watching now, some openly, some pretending they were still drilling while their eyes kept flicking over. The center cleared a little more. Mats that had been full felt emptier. People drifted outward like water, finding a new level. Bruce Lee didn't change anything. He switched to kicks now low first, front snap to the midsection, controlled and precise. Then higher, side kicks that extended smooth and fast, retracting just as clean. Every strike ended exactly where it started. Balance never lost. His breathing stayed even, chest rising and falling steady, almost inaudible under the remaining sounds. He wasn't performing. He wasn't even facing the room fully most of the time. His body stayed angled slightly toward the wall, like the work was private even now. That seemed to pull them in more. The less he gave them to react to, the more they leaned in to understand. By now, the center was noticeably quieter. The tall fighter who'd been holding court slowed his last combo, then stopped altogether. He wiped his face with the back of his forearm, turned, and looked over too. No smirk, no challenge, just a long, steady gaze. The group around him had thinned to 3 or 4. The rest had migrated silently to better sightlines along the side. No one spoke. They just stood there, seeing the difference between motion that asked for attention and motion that didn't need it. One was loud, deliberate, built to be seen. The other was quiet, inevitable, built to work. Bruce Lee wasn't competing with anyone. He didn't glance over when the noise fell away. He didn't speed up to match the growing stillness or slow down to draw it out. He was just training, same as when he started, like the room hadn't changed at all, like the eyes on him were background noise he didn't have to answer. That's what made it land. People recognized the quiet certainty in it, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't posture, doesn't wait for permission. It simply exists, steady and complete, until you can't look away. A few more seconds passed in that suspended quiet. Someone exhaled audibly, like they'd been holding their breath. Another shifted and muttered low to the person next to them, too soft to carry. The room had turned, not with fanfare, but with the slow gravity of something real being noticed. The spotlight hadn't been stolen. It had just found a new place to rest, on the one person who hadn't reached for it. Bruce Lee finished his set the way he'd started it, without flourish. The last kick retracted slow and deliberate, foot settling back to the floor with barely a sound. He exhaled once, long and even, letting his arms drop naturally to his sides. His chest rose and fell a little heavier now, but the rhythm stayed calm. He rolled his shoulders once, a small circle forward then back, loosening what had tightened during the work. Sweat glistened on his forehead and along his neck. He wiped it with the back of his hand in one casual motion, then reached for the towel folded on his bag. He bent down, picked up the small bag, nothing more than a plain canvas thing, no logos, no bulk, and slung it over one shoulder. The zipper made a soft rasp as he closed it. He glanced once at the floor where he'd been standing, as if checking he hadn't left anything behind, then turned toward the door. His steps were quiet, unhurried, the same measured pace he'd carried since he walked in. No dramatic exit, no pause to acknowledge the eyes on him. He just moved through the space like it was any other hallway, any other moment. No one said anything right away. A few heads followed him as he passed slow turns, not quick snaps. The stocky guy who'd noticed first still stood with his towel around his neck, arms loose, watching until Bruce Lee reached the far side of the mats. The woman who'd been stretching earlier shifted her stance slightly, like she wanted a better angle but didn't want to be obvious about it. The tall fighter in the center, the one who'd started with the crowd around him, had his hands on his hips now. He tracked the movement across the room without a word, expression unreadable. A couple of younger students exchanged quick glances, eyebrows raised, mouths half open like they were about to say something but decided against it. The room stayed quieter than when he'd arrived. The energy hung, suspended a beat, longer than it should have. Mats were still there, people still breathing hard from their own work, sweat still dripping onto the floor in occasional soft plops. But the chatter didn't pick back up immediately. No one jumped right into calling out the next drill or laughing over a missed block. The heavy bags swayed a little less vigorously. The pad work slowed to half speed. A guy near the door stepped aside without being asked, holding it open a fraction longer than necessary as Bruce Lee approached. He gave a small nod, barely noticeable, but Bruce Lee just passed through, eyes forward. Outside the door, the hallway light was cooler, fluorescent and steady. The sounds of the room muffled behind him as the door eased shut. Inside, the quiet stretched another few seconds. Someone finally cleared their throat. Another exhaled like they'd been holding air too long. A low murmur started up, not loud, just fragments. Who was that? Did you see the way he... Man, that was clean. Not everyone joined in. Some just went back to their drills, slower now, like the rhythm had shifted under their feet. The show-off in the center picked up a water bottle, took a long drink, then glanced toward the door again before shaking his head once and turning back to his group. The circle reformed, but looser, less certain. A couple guys near the wall exchanged looks, then turned back to their own work shadowboxing, but with less snap, more thought. The room didn't freeze entirely. Life kept moving, but something had settled differently. The air felt a little heavier, the focus a little sharper, like the space remembered what had just passed through it. When he arrived, he was part of the background. When he left, the room stayed still for a moment longer than it needed to.